Welcome back to the Cannabis Podcast, to another episode of Last Weed Tonight. Joining us again is Phillip James Latham, you know him as
Hello.
Philosophies.
Hello.
And seem to be a regular. People love you. I love you. So we're going to keep doing it this way.
I love you too, dog.
Yes, sir. It was just visited him, saw him in person, gave big hugs. Now we're back to this digital ecosystem that we
Smoked
all
a joint. That's an important.
we
We got.
did. We shared a joint. I had a nice little chat during the Lakers game, and then had to hit the road. But
How was
it
your
was
drive
great to
back?
see you, man. I recommend everyone see their friends in person. That's what I recommend.
Amen.
Mental health is number one. All right. What do you
Absolutely.
want to take a look at, Mr. Philosophies, first?
So it's been probably a couple weeks or so since we last linked up, but I've pulled some stuff together, and I think there's some interesting shit happening. All right, well, I got it set up to start with the last one first, but we'll go back to the beginning. Do it live. Uh, So I came across this the other day because it hit my inbox in their newsletter, and I was like, "This is this is legitimizing all the stuff that we've been talking about since we started talking about cannabis years and years ago." So this is coming at you from the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, NORML. The largest ever meta-analysis. There exists a quote strong consensus supporting the therapeutic use of cannabis. As if we didn't know that already, it's really exciting to know that there's actual like medical studies happening that are validating it. So it comes from New York. This is published April 24th, so almost a week ago. Cannabis has a quote well-established role in managing symptoms related to cancer, and there is a quote substantial scientific basis for reevaluating its classification as a Schedule 1 controlled substance, according to the findings of a meta-analysis of over 10,000 scientific papers published in the journal Frontiers in Oncology. Investigators affiliated with the Chopra Foundation in New York and the Whole Healthy Oncology Institute in Hawaii reviewed the data from 10,641 peer-reviewed studies assessing the efficacy and safety of cannabis for managing cancer-related symptoms. The analysis is the largest ever conducted on the subject of cannabis in cancer management. They reported that, quote, across all categories examined, health metrics, cancer treatments, and cancer dynamics, there is a consistent consensus that supports the potential of medical cannabis. So, you know, we can keep kind of chatting about the rest of the article, but like I feel like that's kind of the crux of the point is like if there's over 10,000 peer-reviewed studies that they're using for this meta-analysis that all come to the same conclusion, specifically around cancer. So like, I don't necessarily want to go proselytizing that it's the be all end all solution for all ailments by any means, but specifically when it comes to something as pervasive as cancer and the treatment thereof therapeutically, I'm really a strong advocate for people to have access to this substance as an alternative to any kind of, petroleum derivative pharmaceutical medications that are being shoved down their throats or radiation and all the nasty stuff that comes with chemo. I have friends, family that have all dealt with cancer scares and spats, and by the grace of God, haven't had any losses yet to speak of. But you know, it's just another one of these things. It's very validating in a scientific standpoint that what you and I and so many other people in the advocacy realm have been talking about are just finally getting the support from the scientific community that we've been vying for a long time.
Yep. And to your, I can relate with that as well. My uncle had cancer, passed away of lung cancer. My aunt had melanoma. I've had some skin cancer. My mom and dad both have had skin cancer. My grandmother had breast cancer, and her husband, my mom's dad, died of pancreatic cancer. So I feel you. And this last section right here, I want to read it because it says the study's authors concluded in medical practice, the strong support for cannabis as a palliative adjunct to cancer treatments, which is just another fancy way of saying alternative, offers healthcare providers a data-driven foundation to consider cannabis as part of a comprehensive cancer care strategy. The demonstrated efficacy in managing symptoms like pain, nausea, and appetite loss can significantly enhance patients' quality of life, making cannabis a valuable tool in both palliative care and potentially in curative settings. Repeat that, in curative settings, meaning they know they cured it. And we'll talk about this later. I don't know, maybe we can pull it up now, but the 1979 study from Virginia uh, that said cancer or cannabis cures cancer. And then Nixon was like, get rid of that study. Um, we'll go back to that in a sec. But anyway, the growing consensus around cannabis's therapeutic benefits also highlight the need for medical professionals to stay informed about the latest research as cannabis continues to evolve from a controversial substance to a scientifically validated treatment option. Now, real quick, this would be a great tool for AI, where every morning a healthcare provider will have in their inbox all the new peer-reviewed papers, all the new articles having to do with cannabis right there in their inbox. So they don't have to search for it. Hey, AI, find me and curate all the articles about cannabis that have come out in the last whatever. And then there you go. Yes, this is a great article. Um, I don't know if I looked at the one from Huffington Post, but it's phenomenal. I
It's ba
suggest you look.
I was gonna say it basically goes into what you were just talking about.
Um, Scroll down a little bit. Um, yeah, I want to see where it talks about the
There,
actual.
this one.
There it is. First experiment documenting pot's potent anti-cancer effect took place in 1974 at the Medical College of Virginia at the behest of federal bureaucrats, meaning the government. The result of this study reported in the Washington Post, which I'm going to find that, where that marijuana's primary psychoactive component, THC, slowed the growth of lung cancers, breast cancers, and a virus-induced leukemia in lab mice and prolonged their lives by as much as 36%. That's huge. That's huge. So whenever I talk about, whenever somebody says, uh, anyway, sorry, I'll keep going. Despite these favorable did I already skip one? No.
No, no,
Despite
no.
these favorable preliminary findings, published in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute later that year, U.S. government officials refused to authorize any follow-up research until conducting a similar, though secret, preclinical trial in the mid-90s. That study, conducted by the U.S. National Toxicology Program to the tune of $2 million, concluded that mice and rats administered high doses of THC over long periods had greater protection against malignant tumors than untreated controls. However they want to word that. Sure, go ahead. In the years since the completion of the National
Oh no, no,
Toxicology,
no, no. Read the highlighted section. It's
however,
important.
rather than publicize their findings, the US government shelved the results, which only became public after a draft copy of its findings were leaked to the medical journal AIDS Treatment News, which in turn forwarded the story to the national media. So without a leak or a mole or somebody doing the right thing,
Whistleblower, we'll call them.
whistleblower is another term for them, we would never know this. So, hey guys, if your government, your government doesn't care. Sorry, I'm going to break it to you. They don't like you. They don't like you. And when you accept it, that's when we move forward. So this is insane. Let's keep going because this is an article that is actually insane. In the years since the completion of the trial, the US government has yet to authorize a single additional study examining the drug's potential anti-cancer properties. Federal permission is necessary in order to conduct clinical research on marijuana because its illegal status is Schedule 1. And sidebar, a little quick aside, we've said this before, but the only place in the country where you can grow federally cannabis legal is Ole Miss.
That comes
Ole
up
Miss
later.
University, which I'm assuming had a connection with the people in the 70s who made this, which is the South, which is all that stuff. So,
Which is where this actually comes from, if you
which is
need
where
to.
this is a great natural
Anyways,
Transition.
there's a lot of like spawned off transitions that we could go to because like so
All
we'll
right.
go
Thanks
we'll
for
go,
following along with us. Get we appreciate it. But we're giving you some good articles.
so
We're gonna pin all the comments and the links, or excuse me, pin all the links in the comment section.
yeah, so like this is, this ties in very well. So the meta-analysis of 10,000 studies stemming, potentially finally, how many, this 40 years later? That's insane.
That's
50,
crazy.
50, no, 40 years later.
Math
Math. 74, 2004, 14, 24. Wait, no, yeah,
ish.
that's 50 years. Yeah, that's insane.
How many
Um,
podcasters does it take to do math?
I hope only two, because if one
Uh,
doesn't get it, I hope the other one gets it. And honestly, both of us have calculators on our computer and our phones, so
we
we
got
should
it. We
we
got
should have it.
there.
Oh, that's interesting. So the article where did I click?
Is it dead link?
It's this one. Yeah, it's a dead link. Womp womp. But
I
quick teaching moment.
mean, you can't make this up, people. Like,
Copy
wow.
archive.org. If you've never heard of the Wayback Machine, useful tool. Paste.
I love the
Return.
Internet Archives.
Well, they actually started scrubbing it. Oh, look. What do
Yep.
all these black bars mean? These are all the times this website was modified. Let's go back to the beginning.
This is a teachable moment. I don't think a lot of people know about this. But
Do it
this is
live.
yeah, this is where, if you guys ever get questioned where we get our sources, where I read news, where I get my information, Internet Archive.
And there's other kind of ancillary tools to the Internet Archive.
There it
Okay.
is. There it is.
Ta-da! And you wonder why they don't want you to see this. Why
Could
would the
you
forum?
expand that?
Yeah.
Zoom in on that article. There we go. Pot
So,
shrinks tumors, government knew in 1974.
imagine my shock that the government doesn't want you to know in 2024 what it knew back in
Oh, so this
1974.
was leaked, bro. This was leaked when? Posted
Mm,
when?
so this is posted May 31st, 2000, this article at least. But yeah, it says in
There's
1974.
your there's your inverted number.
Uh, mm, 531. Interesting.
Well, just the three and
Yeah,
one.
I know,
There
I
it
know,
is.
I know. I didn't,
There it is.
yeah.
That's amazing.
So in 1974, researchers learned that THC, the active chemical in marijuana, shrank or destroyed brain tumors in test mice, but the DEA quickly shut down the study and destroyed its results, which were never replicated until now.
So this is
Interesting.
why whenever
Oh, interesting. So this study was actually replicated in February 2000
in Madrid,
in Madrid. Shock it didn't happen in the United States.
well, right, that's why this stuff had to happen in other places now. You know what I mean? So if it was just up to the US to do it, they would just slow walk it, but these other
Wow.
places started doing it.
Most Americans don't know anything about the Madrid discovery. Virtually no major US newspapers carried the story, which ran only in the AP and UPI news wires on February 29th, 2000. What a shame, dude.
Wow, bro. We got all right. Stay tuned. We're gonna go into this more. We're gonna do another deep dive on this.
Yeah,
But
this
I
is this
actually we could just turn this all into this. I mean,
true.
what is
We'll
this?
we'll we'll stick with what we did because we go this is yeah, this is its own little rabbit
This
hole
is a
of
deep
like,
dive.
yeah, this is
We'll
good
come back to
stuff.
this
This
on a
is good
deep
stuff.
dive, but
Pin
this is a
pin
little
pin this, and if you want to research the article, now you know how to find it.
this is a preview.
Naughty,
Oh,
not naughty, naughty in 2025, discoverable in 2025. Don't let anybody fool you. Okay, but this is a good segue into our next point because another normal article, Republican leaning poll finds, quote, there is no demographic group that doesn't believe cannabis should be legal. And if that is the case, by way of a majority or Republican leaning, we'll say, poll, who, if anybody believes stereotypes, Republicans, I thought, were supposed to be the people that advocated against cannabis legalization. If a poll that is leaning Republican, a la conservative, right wing, whatever, is finding that no demographic thinks it shouldn't be legal, then what are we doing? Why is it still illegal then? Or
it's very interesting to
decriminalized,
say that.
whatever.
It's very interesting you say that because this is coupled with kind of our next story, which can kind of be the same one
Sure.
because Texas is right leaning, I would say,
Yes.
no, and they're actually halting. I live in Austin right now, and they're trying to overturn the voter ballot initiative from I don't know what year, 2022,
I think it was, yeah, 2022.
and where San Marcos and Austin
81%.
both voted 81%, which is insane. You almost never get that much majority or consensus, I should say, to decriminalize cannabis in both the cities. And it went through, approved by city council, all that kind of stuff. And now the the lieutenant governor and the top
I think it's the
Republican
attorney general.
attorney general, that's what it is, the attorney general and a bunch of other top Republicans are literally trying to overturn, they're in the process of overturning a voter approved ballot initiative that was certified and is already in practice with businesses working with a whole kind of ecosystem building. And now they're going to overturn it. Why?
Okay, so
And why now?
I want to answer your question and go on a little bit of a rant for a second.
Do it.
In February 2024, Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton filed suit against San Marcos and four other cities that had adopted voter-approved depenalization laws, opining, quote, "I will not stand idly by as cities run by pro-crime extremists deliberately violate Texas law and promote the use of illicit drugs that harm our communities." He filed a similar suit against the city of Dallas in December. Pause. Okay. I don't consider myself a right-leaning person. I don't consider myself any more a left-leaning person. Although if you go by where I fell in like the little grid test thing, I am a left slight of center
Libertarian.
leaning libertarian. And
I'd say you're an
this
independent.
this statement fucking pisses me off because on one hand, I'll agree with I don't like the fact that like a lot of the Democratic led cities and in some instances states, although I do still reside in one and live in a county that is run by them, that there's like no accountability or punishment, consequences, whatever for crime. I have been the victim of crimes. Me and my wife were assaulted and nobody got in trouble for it. So, I'm the first one to say, like, yeah, dude, like, I don't care if it's, considered a petty crime or whatever. Although, we go into the whole prison industrial complex and the fact that's problematic too. Again, leaving all that aside, there's too much information that says that cannabis itself is not a problem in the sense that it's able to be used as a medicine. It's able to be used for all sorts of very positive purposes, but it's been stigmatized and ostracized and demonized by, collective society because of shit like this, where this guy's coming out and, I'm not going to stand idly by, and like he's taking some righteous moral stand against a plant. And it's like, dude, get a grip, maybe smoke a joint, find out, oh, it's not so bad, and then get off your high horse and be a little bit more explicit in terms of how you're talking about these kinds of subjects. Because if you're lumping in cannabis with meth and heroin and all these alcohol, all these other super destructive illicit drugs, you're missing the mark, in my opinion. And, like I don't enjoy living in places that are led by hypocrites or people that are just uninformed or misinformed. You know, I think I try and do my
You should
best.
move then, dude.
No, no shit. And like it's in the pipeline, but I
I
think
mean,
I've
like the country, if that's the case.
well, where and go where?
That's my point.
And go where?
That was my ultimate point is you're gonna keep hopping around the hypocrites and just
End up on an island that I had to buy or like,
it's
stake
called
out.
Pretoria.
Yeah. Anyways, rant over, but it's just like, come on, man. Like, why can't we just like recognize that both based on like what the last article was saying and the one before that, it's like, okay, clearly there's benefit for like a large demographic of people that are suffering. At the very least, please recognize that. Two, nobody in their right sensible mind agrees with you that this plant is like destroying society.
At the
And
very least, they're indifferent.
right. Yeah,
Like
do
they're
what you
like, I
want.
don't care. I've got shit to worry about. I've got to feed
Yeah,
my family. I don't care about a plant. Like,
exactly.
just don't do it around me or whatever,
I don't like how it smells or
Right.
whatever. Like everybody's allowed to have those kinds of like,
Honestly, if the smell, and I get it, if you don't like the smell, it's just like cigarettes for me. It smells like shit. It's
right.
awful. I get it. But if you take away the smell, then they don't care.
Yeah.
They really don't, you know. And
Yeah.
all the studies are coming out saying even pregnant women are not getting any secondhand problems, with because by the time everything gets to the baby, if it gets to the baby, there's
It's been
nothing there.
and it's been filtered. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a triple distillate, you know.
Right, right.
But it's just to your point, what's the difference between a pro-crime extremist and an anti-crime extremist? Is
Not
there a difference one?
not much. No.
It's just the sign they hold.
Yep.
Like that's what Texas is. It's a anti-crime extremist. Now, whatever that's going to be on a national scale too. Like what do we always hear? Law and order, law and order and crime. And I get it. The cartels run a ton of stuff. Legalize weed, they won't run half of what they run. Oh, maybe that's why you can't do it because you're partnered with them to do that job. And now you have to untangle those webs, which is what we're watching play out in real time.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
that's my rant over.
Yeah. So, anyways, but like, okay, so now
Texas, often make your voice heard, be loud.
amen. Amen. But yeah, so jumping kind of from the same tone and token or what a sentiment, whatever you want to call it, to the next thing, we were talking about Ole Miss earlier. New federally backed marijuana research center launches. A university that for decades held a monopoly as the only institution federally authorized to grow marijuana for study purposes is touting the launch of a new cannabis research center it is hosting with the help of a federal grant.
God, I didn't even read this article yet that's hysterical.
The University of Mississippi has been selected to house the National Institute of Health's Research Center or Resource Center for Cannabis and Cannabinoid Research, which the federal agency first announced in late 2023. The college will be partnering with Washington State University and the United States Pharmacopoeia, with support of a grant awarded by the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health under NIH. Ole Miss will lead the effort's regulatory guidance core, while WSU will research support and USP or will handle research support, and USP will focus on research standards. Ole Miss's National Center for Natural Products Research will house the NIH Resource Center to, quote, provide cannabis research information through an interactive website, webinars, seed funding, and conferences to empower researchers to, quote, generate more science-backed evidence, it said in a press release.
Should we just email them that article we just found? Like, do you think we could just speed up the process and
I,
just say, hey, where's our grant?
I want a
We
grant.
just we just
I'll teach people.
we just saved you 30 years of research
Right.
and a lot of pretend theatrics. Um, wow.
Yeah. Um, so this is going to be headed or Donald Stanford, Assistant Director of the University of Mississippi's Research Institute of
I've,
Pharmaceutical Sciences, said R3CR, which is the acronym that they're using, will raise attention to, quote, significant changes in the landscape of cannabis research. Changes such as stronger and improved regulation compliance, development of more cannabis technologies, as well as the FDA or receiving relevant safety data to make decisions on cannabinoids in food and dietary supplements can all eventually contribute to people's health. Well, ain't that about a bish?
I just want to say to everybody, this is why I'm sure they relate. It's frustrating to read articles like this when if you've been watching this podcast, which we really appreciate, by the way, you being here and supporting the channel. But if you've been listening, we've mentioned Ole Miss multiple times about that fact that they're the only place that has had approval. And now they're being awarded the federal grant for the new. So my question is, not question, just statement, I guess. So they're just going to slow bleed this information out at the pace they want and at the height they want. But all this news is going to be superseded probably by bigger world news to where this will be, as they said in the article earlier, carried by one or two news outlets, if that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're putting you on some game right now, peeps.
Yeah. Um,
This is wild.
yeah.
Like, this is actually, like,
This is a good article.
this is pretty wild. I rarely recommend people read this. I'm going to actually go back and read it again. But right here, the
No.
announcement about the center came months after a National Advisory Council where members approved the concept. They approved the concept for the institute. Meanwhile, DEA recently notified an agency judge that the marijuana rescheduling process is still on hold, with no future actions currently rescheduled, as the matter sits before the acting administrator, who has called cannabis a gateway drug and linked its use to psychosis. Now, maybe, just maybe, he's just buying time and running cover so that this new federally funded research place can discover new information to be
Yeah.
shared with him, to where he will now open his brain and he just will be enlightened to the truth, because that seems like the route it's going down.
Yep.
But I digress.
Which then leads us
We
to,
will end on a positive note. Legalizing marijuana led to an increase in use, but a decrease in problematic misuse, study shows by the American Medical Association. You want to read it?
oh yeah, sure. So, new research published by the American Medical Association finds that while frequency of marijuana use among adults in Canada increased slightly in the years following nationwide legalization, problematic misuse of cannabis in fact saw modest decreases. The report, which was published on Wednesday in JAMA Network Open, looked at data from 1,428 adults aged 18 to 65 who completed assessments roughly every 6 months between September 2018 and October 2023. A
Which
primary
is
goal of
peer reviewed, I believe.
yeah, I think JAMA is peer reviewed.
Mm-hmm.
A primary goal of the study, which was partially funded by the federal agency, the Canadian Institutes of Health Research, was to examine how consumption patterns changed following the country's legalization of adult use marijuana sales, of which began in October 2018. Researchers also wanted to understand whether the use patterns changed based on how frequently people used cannabis prior to legalization, as well as how users' product preferences changed. Interesting. So they were just trying to do like an analysis of people's buying and consumption patterns. Um,
I do like that what this shows is that on a bigger scale, speaking to the humans can make their own decisions of how much they want to consume because they know their body, they know their limits and tolerance, etc. Like, yes, there's always going to be a percentage of people that misuse anything,
mhm.
but that's the same with hammers and nails and,
Literally took
inanimate
the
objects,
thought out of my
lamps,
brain.
that kind of thing. So, sure, you don't want, what's the saying? You don't want perfect to get in the way of progress, but led to their own devices, humans will make decisions, I think, that are fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's been my biggest thing recently is just like, give people information, give them choice, and then let them make their own decisions because all of us have
Informed
free
consent.
will. And, yeah, exactly. As long as you have informed consent, don't stand in people's way of doing and getting what they want. Like, yeah, like you said, hammers can be used to build a house or to bludgeon someone over the head, you
Right.
know.
I mean,
Um, Go ahead.
yeah. No, I was just going to probably continue ranting.
Yeah. So article goes on, frequency of marijuana use overall increased slightly but significantly over a 5-year period. Among all participants, the mean proportion of days using cannabis increased by 0.35% per year, or 1.75% over the 5-year study period. People who used cannabis most frequently before legalization saw the largest declines in use. People who consumed marijuana on a daily basis prior to legalization decreased their frequency use more than those who'd used marijuana on a weekly basis. How I don't know. This gets a little this gets a little convoluted for me. So it's like
You
I'll
can just
leave.
really, we'll just pin it and let the
Yeah.
you,
Anyways,
it's the point. You get the point
yeah.
of it. But basically, it's just like alcohol. It's just like alcohol, right? Yes, there's a portion of people that get blackout drunk. I used to be one of
Mhm.
those people. Now I don't drink, but
Same.
it's most people
I still
just
drink
have
a
a
little.
drink or two. Most people that drink just have a drink or two or three. They don't get blackout drunk every night. Um, I'm sure that,
But segue.
but alcohol retailers say only they should be able to legally sell marijuana products. Now,
Huh. That's
I don't,
interesting.
yeah, that's interesting. I don't have a problem with you also selling it, but like only,
Yeah.
that doesn't. So before we get into this, I'll tell the people what I told you earlier too. I was meeting with, uh, when I had one of my sales jobs, I was meeting with I believe president at the time. I don't know if he is now president of the time at the Tennessee Alcohol Commission or whatever they call it. He had a liquor store. We were meeting in his office on the upstairs floor, trying to sell some, I think, THC gummies or something into him, but they're not allowed to sell them. But he said the only way he would support, he's like, I support legalization, but like only from my business is going to be taking the big hit, from people going over to cannabis. So I want to sell it here. And I was like, well, would you also, my point at the time to him was, would you also block home grow? And he was like, well, no, if they want to grow it at home, go ahead. And I was like, okay, as long as you don't block that, you can also grow it, but you only grow it or only sell it. Is that freedom? Is that market? Is that freedom of market? You know what I mean? Is that commerce? Is that American? I don't think so. That's just
Not
power and
quite.
money,
Hmm.
you know? And I
Yep.
kind of really said it to his face, but he didn't really know. There wasn't really much to say. It was just like, well, yeah, if we're going to legalize it, I want to sell it in here. And that would probably be the reason why alcohol lobbies, until they get what they want out of this legalization deal, are going to keep opposing it.
Yep.
It's not that they don't oppose it becoming legal, because there's already brands, Lagunitas and all these other beer brands, Pete Paps, they're making cannabis drinks, you know, or someone's white labeling and putting Paps on them, but it's actually Paps being sold in a legal dispensary. So it's obviously the brand hasn't, said no, or is the brand. So,
I'm waiting for the Bud Light weed drink.
ooh,
I'm
I
telling
mean,
you.
they already have it. It's
Is
kind of
it?
like Lowell. I'm not.
Is it?
Never mind. I'm not trying to be mean to any brand, but um, I just not a fan of their business practices.
Of course not. But I think if MGD or Anheuser-Busch or like any of those players getting into the game, like it's like Philip Morris and the
Right.
cannabis cigarettes. It's like as soon as that hits the market, like it's game over.
Right. Well, and
And
just like alcohol has the Bud Lights, the Coors Lights, the Miller Genuine Drafts, and it's also got the small batch, the
mhm.
local brewery,
The craft
the
stuff.
craft beer
Hmm.
economy is booming. That what you see in the alcohol, that's
It's gonna
where the cannabis industry is going to go. Like that's going to be the blueprint.
I
So
think to that specific point though, I think it'll kind of reflect a little bit more of like the wine industry, just
Mhm.
because there's like the terroir that
Wine or
impacts.
alcohol?
Uh,
Probably
well,
wine.
yeah, I mean, tomato, tomato, I
No, I
guess
know,
to a
no, no,
certain.
I know what you mean
I.
by the wine analogy, because you got your reds, your whites, and then
Hmm.
in the reds and the whites, you got Pinot Noir, you know,
Right,
Cabernet, okay, you got a
and
blend, then you
and
have
then and people are gonna want to start to get well, I think we talked about this on the last show where we were talking about like the effic you're like this the entourage effect versus like cannabinoid specific effects flavonoids, terpenes, and like how the synergy impacts the physiological feeling that you get from ingestion and all that kind of stuff. I think as consumer palate refines and as this becomes a more pervasively adopted substance to consume, I think people are going to kind of get, well, I don't know, because you still have a huge proportion of people that are drinking the Bud Lights and like the crap beer that's just like mass pumped because, Post
Bro, they're
Malone.
boycotting it. They're pro Bud Light. It's like
Yeah,
a national
Kid Rock like
dialogue about
shot up
food,
one, shot up a case. That made me laugh. I was like, dang,
and then still sold it at his bar.
I know. I
Like
mean,
that just like
hypocrites, bro.
why
Hypocrites.
do you not have any honestly, do you not have anything better to do with your time than shoot a case of Bud Lights with a gun?
I
Like
mean,
you
Alex
could
Jones
literally
shot up
do
his YouTube plaque.
anything. You could do anything. That you could have
Yeah,
donated that beer to a frat that you didn't like as a joke.
true, true.
Be creative about it.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
fair
know.
enough, fair
I
enough.
don't know. I'm just joking, but like you also could be just, I don't know, maybe Kid Rock's got some charities I don't know about, but
Maybe he does.
maybe,
He spends a lot of time with Dana White and Trump, so I don't know. We'll see.
maybe not.
Anyways, so just to put it on the record, the agency or the entity, the retailers group that put this memo forward is the American Beverages or the American Beverage Licensees Trade
Uh,
Association. So if
yeah,
anybody wants to, send some hate mail or something, I'm not against that.
no, not hate mail. That's violence, not
Oh,
words are
right.
violence.
Words are
Words are violence.
violence. Silence is
Yeah.
violence. Words are violence. It's all violent. But if you stab somebody and
Actual violence.
and they told you to move,
Just make sure it's
then
not your house.
right. Oh yeah, castle doctrine does not apply. But if you're at a track meet and you stab somebody because they asked you to move, you can play the victim, apparently. That's, I
Well,
guess,
they are. You shouldn't have been in the way.
just saying. But this is two white dudes talking, and we shouldn't tread into racial politics or anything
It's
like
two
that. So
dudes. It's two
we'll
dudes talking.
we'll keep it moving. Anyways, just to round out our point on the whole administration and the white
Which, by the way,
supremacy,
I despise Trump.
same. I
Just
think
for anybody watching
I
that
mean,
thinks the opposite.
he's a he's a
But I haven't liked him since I was like 12.
he's a reality TV star turned president.
Well, there's a one of the most honestly, I watched this obviously we're the MTV generation. So Tupac was on MTV back in the day, and you maybe seen this interview, but it's like
Oh yeah, I think I have.
he's talking and he goes on this rant about Trump. And he's like, everybody wants to be like Trump. Just gimme, more. He's like, why do you got to have 10 houses and somebody else can't have none? Why do you got to have 15 yachts and I can't have food? And he goes on this rant and it just like hit me like, whoa, that's I agree with that. Like,
Hmm.
I agree with those words. I don't even, yeah. So it was just, I recommend everybody just Google Tupac talks about Trump or something like that on YouTube and it'll come up. Or you know what? I'll just pin the link in the comments because everyone should see that. Um, but it's just phenomenal. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Will we get copyrighted for this? Where's the volume? Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Oh,
You don't have to say the whole, you don't have to do that. I just wanted to see the thing about Trump.
anyways, he said the thing about Trump.
I
Anyways,
was I was seven.
I'll send you the link.
Like I was seven watching that. And I was like, dude, this guy's passionate. He's talking about, I agree. This guy's awesome. And so I just never liked Trump because I just didn't like that kind of, oh, look, 13 million views. That's crazy. Um, I just never liked Trump.
Yeah.
So let alone the politician. But
Anyways, to round it out,
yep.
Trump's pick to lead the DEA says marijuana rescheduling review will be, quote, one of my first priorities on the job. President Trump's pick to lead the DEA says examining a
Sure.
proposal for federally rescheduling marijuana will be, quote, one of his first priorities if he's confirmed for the role, and says it's time to move forward on the stalled process. However, DEA Administrator nominee Terrence Cole repeatedly declined to commit to support the specific proposed rule to move cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 of or Schedule 3, pardon me, of the Controlled Substances Act, which was initiated under the Biden administration. If confirmed, it'll be one of my first priorities when I arrive at the DEA to see where we are in the administrative process, Cole told Senator Alex Padilla of California during
Wait,
his
what?
during his
That's a
confirmation hearing.
Is that an AI written sentence or what? If confirmed, it'll be one of my first priorities when I arrived at DEA.
Oh,
Sorry,
maybe
just weird. Maybe there's a
maybe
typo.
a transcription error.
Sorry.
I'm not familiar exactly where we are, but I know the process has been delayed numerous times and it's time to move forward. Pressing his position on the specific proposal to move marijuana into Schedule 3, I need to, or quote, I need to understand where, quote, agencies are and look at the science behind it and listen to the experts and really understand where they are in the process. Yeah.
I mean,
And
fair
then
statement. It's just it's just BS though. You know what I mean?
more pandering and stall
Right.
tactics and
Right.
all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Now, kind of like we said earlier offline, I, if you want to break it down literally, not, take the emotion out of it, he did say, I got to look at the science and get, I don't know where we are and I got to look at where we are and then go forward. Okay, good statement. If it's genuine, based on what we know now, could be not. I don't know. I don't know his intent, but are they really going to actually do anything or just move forward? Well, I don't know. What does move forward mean? You know,
Hmm.
and since he didn't commit to, and you can't really put too much in when he's like, will you commit to Schedule 3? Well, I don't want him. I don't, this would imply the way they put that, this would imply that we want Schedule 3. That's not what we want. And that's why I don't necessarily agree with this article to that extent, because we want to deschedule it, which means we take it completely off and it's decriminalized all across the country. As opposed to Schedule 3, they could still get you for trafficking and, I don't know, growing a huge operation with no license and all that kind of stuff. Um, and then it still says it's still a controlled substance at Schedule 3. So we don't want Schedule 3. So I don't know if this is intentionally doing that or unintentionally doing that. I don't know. I don't know. But the way they imply we want Schedule 3 is not necessarily accurate.
Yep. So, anyways, man, I mean, I'm hopeful for where things are going. I feel like I don't have the rose-colored glasses on too hardcore though, and
Mhm.
yet, if you don't retain some degree of optimism, you're just gonna end up sad and depressed and stuff. So,
I am optimistic because it's not like it can't get worse situation because it can always get worse.
oh, of course, you don't say
But
things like
but in
that.
but in yeah, I'm not saying that just for the world. But what I am saying is that in theory, it's only going to move towards, whether it's slow or fast, it's only going to move towards legalization or more access to it,
Yeah,
not less.
true.
Because once the genie's out of the bottle, it's a slow bleed, but it'll happen no matter what. Especially if other countries, I mean, we're not even considering that either. We're just considering the United States. What if other countries, Great Britain, France, and like all these other, I mean, they're not going to, but what if they do? Um, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
the United States, I think Bobby Kennedy will, I think that could maybe get him an easy win if he does like a Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, even though he knows it's not the right thing to do. Um, could get him an easy one with both people. You know what I mean? I think that's
Hmm.
why they're going to tightrope that. You still keep it illegal, and then yet you kind of minimize it a little bit,
Yeah.
and then you pass safe banking. You know, I don't know what's going on with that, but
But
I'm
that
optimistic,
but that interview with Catherine Austin Fitz on Tucker sure was interesting.
it was fascinating. That was I enjoy she's fascinating to listen
She's
to.
dude, she's awesome. If you don't know about the Solari report, solar with an I at the end of it report, Catherine Austin Fitz, former assistant director of HUD, under the second or the Bush Jr. administration, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, multiple roles and all across the world in finance and HUD and everything.
This lady's
She's
a boss.
very smart.
Came from Wall Street, but now she's like hardcore blowing the whistle on all the awful stuff that's like coming down the pipes hard and fast. And she's like,
And
"Yo, we need to like stop this train."
that's my conspiracy gripe is
Mm.
my gripe about whistleblowers is, and again, it's a pretentious gripe and it's a perfectionist gripe,
Check your privilege, bro.
but why didn't you blow the whistle sooner?
Oh, she's been blowing the whistle for a
No,
while.
no, no, I know. With her,
Oh,
but
okay.
like in general, a lot of people, you're like, these people that are coming out now opposed to things. Like you're
Oh,
like,
sure, sure,
hey,
sure.
why didn't you do it before? Do you feel safer now? Or do you know the narrative's already changed enough to where you could just already, I don't know. Again, like I said, I don't, she has been saying
And
stuff for a long time.
I think the Overton window in terms of the mainstream ideals has shifted a little bit. Plus, you had a bunch of the mainstream people get kicked out of the mainstream, so now
Sure.
they can kind of, you know, quasi take over the
Or reassigned to
independent.
independent media, you mean?
Yeah, you know. But then you trace back the funding for some of these huge creators that have like multi-million dollar homes and situations, and you find out like, oh, you're like bought and paid for too now. Great,
Right.
cool.
But
So,
even with all those, let's say right-leaning news people that went independent, like
Tucker, Megyn
Tucker,
Kelly.
Megyn Kelly, it's interesting to see the same people within a couple of days of their own podcasts on each making the rounds.
Hmm.
So when you notice that, you go, oh, convenient, interesting that you're just that booked up with
Well,
all these
apparently,
same people.
I learned something the other day from listening to episode of one of the last episodes of Grand Theft World with Richard Grove. I think his name's Hovier, and I really apologize if I'm getting his name mispronounced, but he runs a platform called Geopolitics and Empire. Another great platform, dense and awesome.
Hmm.
But he actually made a comment about the fact that like some of these people, whenever they like put out a new book or something, they have PR firms that will like
Oh yeah.
spray and pray to all the different podcasts, you
Well, it's
know.
part of the book deal.
Right.
It's part of the
So
publishing deal.
so like he's gotten access to people that like if they dug one step further, they're like, "Oh wait, no, we can't have our globalist or Zionist guy come and talk to you because
Right.
like you're just gonna out him for all this stuff, you know." And it was funny because he was talking about it. He was just like, "Yeah, I interviewed one of the guys that wrote the book on the New World Order, and you know he wrote about it, and so like I asked him about it, and he was like, oh, that's like a conspiracy thing, and he's just like, but." Like here's the quote in your book, blah, 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 New World Order or something, and the guy's like, oh well, so not that he's like looking for the gotcha moments, but I think rightfully courts people that are part of the the them of it all,
Hmm.
and kind of asks what the opinions are straight from the horse's mouth in actuality. And I think that's an important role to play in kind of the assessment of everything that's happening.
Yep. That's a very true and accurate statement, my friend. And unfortunately, as all these things are happening, you're seeing people one topic at a time show their true colors, you know.
Absolutely.
And you don't, and it sucks too because I liked Bobby Kennedy for a while. I still like him on some topics. One very noticeably no, genocide being the big one. But I'm big enough to jump off any train or any wagon or any support. I can withdraw my support for anybody at any time for any reason. And I wish more people would. Um, I mean, I don't know why we don't treat politicians with the same uh like criteria we do like partners. Like
Sure.
we don't let our partner lie to our face like every day, about anything, whether it's a big, small, medium topic, but yet we let these people lie to them our faces every day about everything, about your health, about your life, about death, energy, money, everything. And you're just like lie after lie after lie. It's fine. And
Cannabis.
and Canada, I mean, obviously, the biggest one being the podcast. Like, when you do deep dives, and it, like you said, it does depress you. But the one thing I do like is that the people that aren't in charge didn't do it. and they're just going by the information they have, just like we are.
Yep.
And so if you didn't do it, I'm not mad at you. You didn't do it. You know, I'm not saying you're not fighting against me. You're just not doing anything because you didn't do it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
So, you know, I just wish more people would I don't know, just be more optimistic, I guess.
Have integrity, be
Yeah, I
honest,
mean, at this
speak.
point, if
No.
money's worthless, which at this point it kind of is, what else, what other currency is there besides your soul, right? Besides integrity. I mean, we see job postings all the time for like content creators. Oh, you got to do this and that. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to be Mr. Beast, or I don't want to be Logan Paul or any of these people.
You don't want your own HBO documentary series?
Not by HBO. I can do my own documentary series. You know what I mean? Like you can do a documentary series about me, I can do, or yourself, and I can do one about myself. Well, what about the bias? Well, you got bias too if you do it against me. You got a narrative you want to tell.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just wish everyone the best. And thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Another
This is a
episode
good
of
one.
Last Rant Tonight. Um, with philosophies in the Cannabis Podcast. Appreciate you all being here. Please like, share, and subscribe. If you've made it this far, God bless you.
Amen.
and, and I appreciate you. And what you got going on. And go follow uh, philosophies on his YouTube, his Instagram, his
I
X,
promise I'm gonna be
Twitter.
more active. I promise. I
Coming
promise to
soon.
all. I
Just help
promise.
support slowly, just like here. Slow build.
I'm a busy person right now.
And
I have a
until I'm actually going to make a root beer float, but the root beer is cannabis infused.
yum.
So I love root beer floats. So I'm going to make myself a little root beer float. Watch the Lakers probably lose.
Mhm.
Hopefully they win.
Wait, where's your flag?
Oh, it's just right there.
Oh, okay.
Um, oh, sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
Oh,
I literally just noticed. I was like, oh
I
no,
know. I just
the
did too. I was
flag's
like, wait,
gone.
oh, where is it? No, it's over there. I'll put it up back for next
All
time.
good. All
Until
good.
next time, y'all, stay blessed, subscribe, and don't forget to tip your bud tenders.
Peace.